Welcome back to a brand new episode of Bloore and Mandalore. I am your host, Jeremy Bloore, and I have got samurai clogs on. I am on my balcony right now. I apologize, I can't go out and go film in a special location, but it's a bright blue sky and my imagination is wild because today we are talking about something that has fascinated me for so long. Just inherently in the Sith, there is one thing that defines it compared to that of the Jedi. It is the rule of two. Now, I'm hitting my notebook because, God damn it, guys, we have got some serious research being done today. I've always been fascinated with the rule of two. I think it's just something that's so inherently fantasy, and I mean, I've absolutely, you guys know that I'm obsessed with fantasy right now, and I'm kind of maybe creating my own fantasy universe. And it's something that I've really kind of wanted to try to implement in my own, something along the lines of this, because it's so inherently evil, and it works so perfectly with our understanding of, from our society, what it's like to fall to the dark side. So who created the rule of two? Darth Bane. Now, Darth Bane created the rule of two about 1,000 years, give or take, before the Empire was created, or the rise of the Empire. I guess the Empire was kind of created before, or the thought of it. So 1,000 or something years before the rise of the Empire, Darth Bane created the rule of two in order to win the war against the Jedi. I have the definition of the rule of two here on Wikipedia, so let's dive into this. Now, if anyone doesn't know Wikipedia is the Star Wars dictionary. Basically, anything that you need, it's on Wikipedia. It's a great resource for Star Wars fans to be able to understand everything to do with the Star Wars universe. And the good thing is, they get paid. Sorry for that. It's a really loud truck. They get paid. They get paid to do it. So definitely go over there, give it a read. You can actually read this whole article. What I'm just taking right here is the description. So Wikipedia's description is as follows. The rule of two was a decree for the Sith established by Sith Lord Darth Bane so that they could operate in secret and eventually get revenge on the Jedi Order for their near extinction in the Jedi-Sith War. It was a successor to the doctrine of the dyad, a concept centered on the Force dyad, which was a pairing of two Force-sensitive beings linked by a unique Force bond that was unbreakable. The decree commanded that only two Sith Lords must exist at any given time, a master to represent the power of the dark side, and an apprentice to erase it, and train under the master to one day fulfill their role. This governed the Lords of the Sith. Now, I'll give a quote from Darth Bane. This is the quote in his creation, the conception. He says, "Two there shall be, no more, no less. One to embody the power, and the other to crave it." So the masters demanded loyalty from their apprentices, but sometimes betrayed them if they found one with more potential. In ancient times, the Sith were often ruled by two Sith, while many others existed at the same time under them. It's kind of the idea of, well, you've got all of these people who say that they are dark side users. I'll give an example of the rule of two in a common time that we understand, which was we've got Darth Vader and we've also got Palpatine. Now, Palpatine, Vader, that's the two Sith. But you've also got, in the background, you've got Maul technically operating under the guise of a lost master. You've got Baylan Skoll. Sorry, it's like every fucking truck wants to come bust. I apologize for that. You've got Baylan Skoll, who, he's a dark Jedi. You've got Shin Hati. All of these different people who operate under the guise of the dark side, but they are not inherently Sith. Kind of interesting. Now, for some of you guys who are confused about the Force dyad and kind of want a little bit more of a description, I've written that one down here as well. I know, Jeremy, what the hell? You've put so much effort into this one. Thank you. I'm trying to. That's why I have this notebook. Because I kind of want to just do better for you guys. The Force dyad. When two Force beings have a unique Force bond that was unbreakable, that made them one in the Force. The power of a dyad was as strong as life itself, with the individuals forming a dyad sharing a connection that spanned across time and space. Now, what I find really interesting with that one is we kind of see all of that through the Acolyte. We see it through a bunch of different mediums, from TV shows to the movies. And a Force dyad, between Rey and Kylo is not necessarily the same between a Force dyad of May and Osha in the Acolyte. All of them have their legitimacy, and all of them have their downfalls. It's kind of cool. Like, it's kind of cool to see the impact of a Force dyad and how it could create life itself. It's like there was a vergence in the Force, which is what created May and Osha. But the reason why they were one in the Force is because of the Force dyad that connected them at that time. Technically, they were one person in the Force, which is why they had the exact same midichlorian count. Like, you could have twins. I'm a twin myself. My brother would not have the same midichlorian count that I have. So it's kind of cool to see it going, well, I guess it could create a lot of power individually from a source. But imagine draining that power and putting that into something else, which is kind of the origins of Anakin Skywalker. Anakin was a mixture of a couple of different things, but the idea is that midichlorians were connected as one in that whole situation, which is why Rey and Kylo could see each other in that when they were on the ship and down on that planet. I can't remember which one, but it's really, really cool. I really, really like the idea of a dyad. It's not a new thing. George Lucas had created it a long time ago. Disney decided to implement it. Really, really like it. But let's talk about the successes of the rule of two, and also kind of the failures. So, number one, I've just got 3 points for each. It's not really. I don't think that today's episode is going to be that long. So, number one, survival and secrecy. So, with the limited number of Sith, it means that they go under the radar. A lot of the Jedi at the time of that we see in the Acolyte, the High Republic, they thought that the Sith were gone for a millennia. They hadn't seen them for years and years and years. Maybe extinct, or maybe hiding in the shadows, in secrecy. Now, obviously, we found out later that it was the shadows' idea, and we did kind of lose a little bit of respect for the Jedi. I'm not going to talk about the downfall of the Acolyte here. I'm just going to talk about inherently what it is to be Sith. But with that limited number of Sith, it was great to be able to fly under the radar, but it was even better. Because what you see, as Jedi are not as inherently strong as Sith for one reason. The amount of Jedi compared to the amount of Sith. Now, I know you might be saying, well, just can't they make more? Well, it would actually mean that it would split all of the power between the people who identify as Sith. I identify as Sith. No, it's like the people who are Sith, the power would split between them. So you can have a channeling of all of the dark side going into two people, which would far exceed that of the average Jedi, the average master even. So it's super interesting to be able to see, well, they've just concentrated all of this power by their limited numbers, because the dark side has to they have to have balance. Whenever the light side rises, the dark will rise to match it, vice versa. So to see two people be able to harness the power of what could potentially be hundreds of Jedi. Like we saw Darth Nihilus, or Darth Nihilus, however you want to say it, could draw power from planets, could literally suck the power. You've also had other Sith Lords who have been able to keep themselves alive by holding their pieces of skin together. You've got Darth Maul, who had a cut down on his fucking penis, and then he just put a spider leg on it. Like, he put spider legs on him to be able to survive, holding himself with the dark side of the Force. Like, it's so much power. So much power kind of just concentrated into these small amounts of people. But also with the limited number of Sith, you were actually able to have so many less problems because there weren't as many people to defy those others. Obviously, the Sith are created over jealousy and hatred and a bunch of other no-nos, which was the downfall, which I'll talk about after. Number 2, we've got the focus on power. Obviously, with only 2 more power to be divided between. However, that was also to do with the leadership, which is, kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see that all of the people that we had as Sith at the time, think about Palpatine, think about Vader, all of them were so much more knowledgeable than any of the other Sith, because it concentrated every generation. As it went down, 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 it was all of the understanding of your teachings, of all of the ideologies, was kind of consolidated into just 2 people. And then you got times where, Palpatine was able to overthrow his master based on he knew everything that his master knew before. I'm going to take off my Japanese clogs because I kind of want to put my foot down properly. I swear, my channel's kind of just like me chatting to a fucking camera the whole time. Apologies for anyone who doesn't like that. But anyways, it's kind of interesting to see all of the power and the knowledge going into 2 people. Now, we'll see that will be their downfall later, but it's as for a brief period of time, that is the most impressive trait, to be able to have every understanding of everything to do with the dark side of the Force all in one person, and then have an apprentice to be able to crave more and to understand more and to try to better their master, so they do more, they learn more, they understand more, and it just concentrates every generation getting better and better, because they always have to one-up themselves. As the dark side, you can't just have complacency. If you have complacency, the Jedi will overcome you, which is kind of weird seeing it like that, because the Jedi are the good guys and you want them to win. But in this situation, really, no. Like, even in order to have balance, you don't want the Jedi to win. You don't want anything to do with the Jedi coming close to the Sith, because that balance would be thrown out. That's the reason for the downfall of the Jedi in the end. Like, when the Empire rose, the Jedi were too full of themselves. They were too cocky. They lacked conviction. They got too caught up in their own ways. They didn't realize what they were doing were wrong. Dooku. I always talk about Dooku's quote, but he basically he said, this is a very, very short version of it. He says, live around corruption for long enough and you no longer notice its stench. It's why Palpatine was able to kind of hide under. And that is onto the third point of galactic conquest. Now, being 2 people, you're able to have a far better plan. Think about it as a group project, right? If you've ever done a school project, a university project, and you've got fucking 3-4 people on there trying to catch everyone up with all of these fucking problems that are going on all the time, and you just go, brother, I don't want to keep chasing you. I can't, this is the fucking plan. This is how it's going to go. Compare that to a duo. Man, it's lifetimes ahead of the other one. So this is actually one of the reasons why Palpatine was able to overthrow. Like, the rule of 2 being so small. I know I alluded to it before. Only 2 people, you can hide. It's what Palpatine was able to do. They thought no Sith was ever around for a millennia. I mean, don't get me started on Ki-Adi-Mundi when he was like, oh, but there's been no Sith for a millennia, and he was around in the Acolyte time now. Now it's just completely fucked his character. I didn't care. I didn't like it. I'm with Commander Jesse. We did a funny episode on it, but I hate Ki-Adi-Mundi. I don't like him. I think he's a piece of shit. Never liked him. That fucking egghead loser. I wish Coleman Trebor survived and then he died. which I guess they all died in the end. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So with that, with Palpatine being able to kind of hide under the radar, we've got the ability to overthrow even the most powerful version of the Jedi. At the time, the Jedi were at their peak. They had copious amounts of Padawans, Masters, even control over the whole galaxy, be it good or bad. It was under their control, under their guise of government and governing body. So it kind of takes us to the failures and the flaws. So we've got the first one being instability and betrayal. Now, apprentices were expected to overthrow their masters. What the fuck does that mean? That means a lack of trust. That 100%. And it also means that masters were trying to either replace their apprentices, or apprentices were just prematurely killing. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the long run. For that brief window of time when that rule of 2 was created and all the other Sith died except for 2. Or, the idea of it, obviously there's going to be dark side users, blah, blah, blah. Let's forget about the semantics, right? Let's just go specifically with the rule of 2. So you had so much of a lack of trust as a master. Think about Plagueis and Palpatine. So you had Plagueis there, and he's constantly being like, look, this is... And by the way, he thought he was so fucking good. He was so cocky. He was like, oh, man, no one's going to fucking best me. I can literally create life. He created Anakin. He created life. Obviously Palpatine helped him create that. But, still, he created life. Nothing's above him. He can live forever. He will never die. It's, the power to corrupt all. And Palpatine, learning all of this, he didn't want him to be around. He wanted all the power. Palpatine wanted to control all of it. And Plagueis knew. Plagueis knew that Palpatine was going to be a conniving son of a bitch, and he purposely tried to find other people. You see, Plagueis had I can't remember his name. I'm thinking Thor Vallum, but that's not. I don't even think that's in the fucking universe. Darth Tenebris. God damn it! Sometimes I fucking get my own brain. Darth Tenebris, and he was another Bith, because Plagueis was a Bith, and he had, or maybe I'm wrong. Oh, anyways, basically Plagueis had another pupil alongside of Palpatine, and Palpatine he was a fucking pussy. He could not... Oh, no, Tenebris and Plagueis were the... Yeah, okay, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Basically, he wanted to find more people to be able to recruit them who were not going to do what Palpatine did and overthrow him, because all Palpatine wanted was to destroy every aspect of him. So let's go into second one, lack of longevity. So with limited numbers, in the face of defeat, the Sith would no longer exist. Now, a lot of you might be like, Jeremy, I get it, but think about Vader and Palpatine. In the end, when in the original trilogy, when you've got Vader standing there, and he literally overthrows, he throws him into the fucking chute. Yes, he overthrew Palpatine, but that was the end of all knowledge. Think about, as a longevity point of view, if 2 people understood everything that there ever was to do with the Sith side, how the fuck could you transfer that knowledge? Obviously, you could have holocrons and you could have all that kind of stuff, but barely. They didn't want to keep all those records because they didn't want people to have that same power. They didn't want the understanding of what they could... that took them so many years to gain, to just be taught in a matter of months. So what that meant is that when the 2 that have been ruling die in a tight-knit group, obviously Palpatine didn't die at that time, but if he did die, like he was kind of meant to, the Sith would, inherently go back thousands and thousands of years of technological innovation and just theoretical understanding of the dark side. Now, you got to remember, the dark side is a completely different way to use the Force. It is a manipulation of the Force around you. It's not working with the Force, which is what the Jedi did. It's like the lightsaber is an extension of you. The Force, you are an extension of the Force. You are the Force's weapon. You work with the Force. You do not work against it. It's kind of like swimming up a current against swimming with it. The dark side would swim up the current, and they would manipulate the Force as it goes to bend it to their will. It's the reason why they were so powerful, the reason why they did so many bad things. So it's kind of, it's a little bit, obviously, it's a bit rudimentary to think about it like that. But if we got to see what George Lucas wanted, because Palpatine wasn't going to be in it. It was going to be Maul and Darth Talon. Maul didn't know half the stuff that Palpatine knows, half the stuff that Vader knew. I love Maul. Everybody knows how much I love Maul. He was a nobody. He was an absolute nobody compared to that of Palpatine. So he would have no idea about Exegol. He would have no idea about finding ancient Sith temples and finding Darth Bane and all that kind of stuff. No idea, because Palpatine purposely kept him in that shell. He kept him in that environment to as a lack of growth. He didn't want him to be as successful as Palpatine was, because Palpatine wanted to live forever. You know what I mean? So it would be a different kind of power struggle in the sequel movies if they didn't fucking go with Palpatine. And the third one is overconfidence and short-sightedness. Sorry, I can't read my writing. I'm so dumb. I write like a fucking child. I'm scribbling. Basically, one of the main problems that, you see all throughout the original trilogy is the underestimating of their enemies. Palpatine didn't plan on hope being a factor, of people rallying behind the small fish, trying to take down the big guys. You underestimate because you think that you are you're overconfident. You are completely overconfident. Think about Plagueis and Palpatine. He was so overconfident, he did not think that anyone would even attempt to kill him. He was too powerful. I can harness life itself. Why would anybody harm me? Well, he found out. And Palpatine killed him in his sleep. It's wild to think that Palpatine would fall down that same track, but it's that overconfidence. It's the greed. It's the innate search for pleasure in which it is not deserving. He had to rely on his control and manipulation. If that rule of two was ever to survive for a long period of time, you would need supreme control and the mastery of manipulation, in which no one but Palpatine had. With the loss of Palpatine, they lost... Oh. There's a fire truck. Everybody look at the fire truck. Oh no, it's an ambo. I really respect ambulance drivers and just ambos in general. They are so incredible at their job. What they do. You always have to take a moment just to appreciate them, even when they're going past. Just take a moment. But we relied on Palpatine to have that immense control and mastery of manipulation over everything, and he did it well for that short period of time where he overthrew the Jedi and he maintained control. The perfect Palpatine moment for his manipulation, I believe, was in Bad Batch when he was talking to the clones. So when the clones were involved, and he was like, should they have rights? Should they have everything? He just pinned it all on the clones, being like, they are incapable of not listening to their orders. The sign of a good soldier is to listen to all your orders, to not overthrow your master, to just be an obedient, basically not a dog, but an obedient soldier is a good soldier. Someone who just listens, doesn't think. And he made it seem like it was a bad thing. It was a fucking genius. He tricked a whole Senate into thinking that it was the clones' fault and not his own. And then he got even more control. He got even more power to be able to get all of the rest of the people in the galaxy to need to join the Empire for money or whatever. Like, Genius, absolutely genius. And it's that manipulation that held him in such a high regard. But without him, you wouldn't have it. So, kind of in the end, like a little bit of a concluding statement. The rule of two is successful for a brief period of time, but in the end, it sowed its own seeds for its own downfall. It's sad to see that was the end of that statement. It's sad to see the Sith fall like that, because I love the dark side. But I can see the necessity, and I can see how they would fail, which is why I think Baylan Skoll would be such a better Sith, to be able to know when to quit and when to like give it a real go. I wish we got more of him. I wish we got more of him. It's so sad about his death. So sad. Ray Stevenson, terrible, absolutely terrible. Before, so he could even see all of the love that everyone in Ahsoka gave him. Really sad. Anyways, we've got the sad segment, the fan segment for today. We have got two very, very thought out and incredible responses from Star Wars Nerd and Tales from Prettier. The same damn person, everyone. The same damn person who has an amazing channel, both Star Wars Nerd and also Tales from Prettier. Amazing, amazing, amazing channels. Love to see him. Check it out. I've actually done a Tales from Prettier, so check it out. Check it out. Did a really cool video with him. He's such a down-to-earth guy. Absolutely love everything that he's doing. And, you know, I mean, he's even got some of the big dogs on there now. You know, he doesn't have small fries like me. He has some of the big dogs. So Star Wars Nerd 00 says, nah. Oh, but let me just say, I put on the thing, do you think the rule of two was successful? Or, you know, did it fail? And then he says, nah, I think it works fine. One to master the power and one to crave it. Sure, there were armies, but what happened to them? Who survived and took down the Republic and the Jedi Order? The rule of two. That's like the clap, clap, clap. I get it. But in a longevity point of view, it just doesn't make sense. It absolutely does not make sense. Unless you could have someone that was legitimately unable to die. Legitimately could not have... Like, that was just not a factor. To not lose them at all, one single bit, then that would make sense. Like, don't even get me started on, like, you know, Sith can't have Force ghosts. So where would they go? What would they do? They wouldn't be able to share any of their information. The moment of their death is the moment of the death of the Sith. And yes, okay, they had great armies and there was a great Sith versus Jedi war. Really interesting stuff. And I really liked it. And in the long run, that wouldn't have worked because the Jedi were just so much better than them. And they were able to actually kind of rally under one banner, whereas the Sith was kind of like 50 billion banners and you want just to focus on your own under the guise of we're all working together for this little bit, you know? Everyone wanted more power, and it made sense to do it, but only for a short period of time, to overthrow the power that was originally there, and then you build up based on what it was previously. As a longevity point of view, it does not make sense. There is a reason why the Sith fell every single time, because of the rule of two. You know. And yes, they took down the Republic, but I think that was the Republic's own fault. Like the fall of the Jedi was of their own construction. They became too complacent. They lost track of sight of who they were and their values and what they held in such a high regard to warrant any idea of war under the guise of galactic control is nothing too dissimilar of the Empire. The Jedi, their failure was of their own. So, next one, Tales from Prettier. He says, nah, the Sith had armies and they were destroying each other before the rule of two. Yes. I agree. I absolutely agree. However, just like that point I was saying before, they survived, but for how long? The armies were great, but they survived for how long? They couldn't do it. They could not do it. Again, the Sith fell for a reason. It's because of their own demise. And you'll see that kind of mirror itself throughout the rest of what we will see for the rest of the Skywalker saga, and also other aspects of like different projects in Star Wars. So, it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool to see. But I think the rule of two, it's done. I think it's done. I think if they were going to do something to be able to get better, they need to create more. They need to create an army. I think the First Order would have been an incredible force. They definitely should have won in the end. Like the First Order, I think, forget about Palpatine, forget about anything. Keep Exegol. I like the idea of Exegol. I think Kylo Ren finding Exegol and then creating his own army, and maybe the Knights of Ren were force sensitive and a bunch of different stuff. They all had lightsabers and they created an army. I think the Jedi would not be able to handle it. The Resistance would not be able to handle it. One Jedi against all of them. To have all of the power channeled into a few people in the Jedi would not be anywhere near the same, because they couldn't manipulate the Force the same way that the Sith could. So, I appreciate, man. I appreciate those comments. Absolutely love you, dude. Absolutely love you. What's on track for the future of Bloore and Mandalore? Next week, I'm going to be doing my first episode of Order Bloore and Mandalore, where I just do audiobooks. I'll do a bunch of that stuff. I have got something really funny in the pipeline, which I don't know if I can release to you yet, but let's just say it's going to be around Christmas time. I'm really, really keen. My girl and I, we were like pissing ourselves about it last night. So I'm really keen. Keep an eye out for that one. Keep an eye out for that one. It's gonna be fucking funny. New Blades and Beskar episode was out this week. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of a part one. There's going to be a part two next week. Honestly, I think that's actually my best episode that I've done so far in Blades and Beskar. I know it's only been around for a little bit, but, I've had all my experience of these previous episodes. I just think that was the most consolidated, most concise, just perfect for what I wanted to show. So really, check that one out. I genuinely enjoyed that so much. Talking about the importance of trees and the reverence that Tolkien had for trees. Which anyone knows reverence, it basically means you hold it in a high esteem, high regard. You value it highly. Next week, I'm going to be doing for Blades and Beskar about the Valar trees, the light of the golden trees in. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'll teach you about it. That's the whole point. That's going to be the part two. Next week. Surprise, surprise. I don't actually know what I'm going to be talking about next week, so I'm going to figure that one out. And I'll tell you next week. But thank you all for watching. Thank you so much for enjoying. I love you all, and I will catch you in the next one. Ciao, my sexy fucks. I fucking love you all. I love you all. Ciao, bitches.